Welcome, my internet aficionados and lovers of the absurd, to the Weird and Unexplained with John, the podcast where we unearth the digital relics of yesteryear and explore the stories that made the internet. Well, obviously, the internet. Today, we're diving into a campaign so audacious, so brilliantly nonsensical, that it managed to unite thousands of people into a common cause to rename one of nature's most annoying creatures. We're talking about the time the internet tried to change the name of fire ants to the Spicy Boys. It was the summer of 2016, a simpler time perhaps, a time where memes were still finding their feet and viral campaigns could truly capture the collective imagination before algorithms fully dictated our every scroll. Into this fertile digital landscape stepped a visionary, a hero that we only know by the legendary name of Puppergsmall. And Puppergsmall had a mission. The mission was to right a perceived injustice against a tiny crimson-hued arthropod. And on June 29th, 2016, a petition appeared on change.org. Its title was concise yet revolutionary: Change the name of fire ants to Spicy Boys. Now, change.org is known for petitions tackling serious issues from human rights to environmental protection. But every now and then, a petition emerges that's so profoundly silly it transcends into satirical origins and takes on a life of its own. This was one of those times. The petition was addressed to an unlikely trio, Michelle and Barack Obama, and for good measure, Mark Zuckerberg. A powerful trio, perfectly suited, apparently to usher in a new era of etymological nomenclature animals. The language of the petition itself was a masterpiece of internet humor. It started with a preamble, setting the stage for this monumentous undertaking. They said, "The world is changing at a rapid pace, and it's time we started taking into account the feelings of all living organisms. Blades are now an Olympic sport, and there are 76 genders, and we, as a society, are finally starting to accept that daddy isn't just a parental title. So why in this progressive society are we still clinging to the outdated and offensive names for our insect companions?" Or so says the quotes from the campaign that I found. Right there in that opening paragraph, you get the essence of the campaign. It taps into the culture of 2016, a year often remembered for its meme culture, political shifts, and the evolving social discussions. The mention of Blades, which is a toy spinning top game in the Olympic sports, and was of course a delightful piece of hyperbole, perfectly framing the absurdity. And the reference to 76 genders and the redefinition of daddy were nods to ongoing discussions around gender identity and internet slang, all skillfully deployed to build a case for fire ants. The core argument, however, was framed around the concept of dysphoria. Fire ants, while they may have a fiery sting, they are not fire. They are simply spicy, and calling them fire ants is causing them dysphoria. This, of course, is where the brilliance truly shines. Applying the concept of dysphoria, a term typically used in the context of gender identity, to an insect's name was a stroke of genius. It was a playful, albeit irreverent, commentary on the language we use and how rapidly our understanding of identity was expanding. It turned a potentially serious concept into a vehicle for light-hearted humor, while simultaneously highlighting how easily we can get caught up in semantics. The petition then went on to lay out the alleged benefits of the name change. By changing their name to Spicy Boys, we can acknowledge their true nature and help them feel more comfortable in their own exoskeletons. This will lead to happier, healthier, and ultimately less bitey ant populations. It's time to show our insect friends the respect that they deserve. Sign today and let's make history, one spicy boy at a time. Less bitey. That was the real hook, wasn't it? The promise of a world where fire ants, feeling affirmed and validated, would somehow be less inclined to deliver their notoriously painful stings. It was irresistible fantasy for anyone who had ever inadvertently stepped on a fire ant mound. The petition wasn't just a joke, it was a rallying cry for more harmonious, less itchy coexistence with nature. In the world of online petitions, gathering a few signatures, a few hundred signatures at that, can be a struggle. Gathering thousands requires something special. The Spicy Boys petition had that special sauce. It wasn't just funny, it was shareable. It tapped into the nascent meme culture of 2016, offering a perfect blend of absurdity, wit, and a touch of internet irreverence. Social media platforms, particularly Twitter, now known as X, and Reddit, became the breeding grounds for the Spicy Boys movement. Users shared the petition with enthusiastic captions, encouraging their friends and followers to sign. The phrase Spicy Boys itself became a meme detached even from its etymological origins and used to describe anything small but feisty. The media, both traditional and online, quickly picked up on the story. Articles popped up on sites like The Independent, Shortlist, and various humor and news outlets, marveling at the sheer momentum of the seemingly frivolous campaign. The headlines practically wrote themselves. Campaign to change the name of fire ants to Spicy Boys gathers pace. This media coverage, in turn, fueled even more signatures, creating self-sustaining viral loops. Within weeks, the petition had amassed thousands of signatures, then 10,000s, and at its peak, it garnered over 75,000 signatures. 75,000 people from all corners of the globe took time to click a button because they believed, even for a moment, in the power of Spicy Boys. It was a testament to the internet's unique ability to mobilize collective action around the most unexpected causes. And it wasn't just limited to signatures. The Spicy Boys phenomenon spilled over into other corners of the internet. Dedicated fans started creating fan art depicting fire ants wearing tiny little hats or striking heroic poses. People started using Spicy Boys in everyday conversation, referring to hot peppers or energetic children. The meme had transcended its original purpose. It became a part of the internet's lexicon. Perhaps one of the most enduring legacies of the Spicy Boys campaign within internet culture was the appearance in the gaming world. The popular post-apocalyptic role-playing game Fallout featured giant mutated fire ants as reoccurring enemies. A modder inspired by the petition created a modification for the game that literally changed the in-game text, renaming all fire ants to Spicy Boys. Now imagine playing through a grim, eradicated wasteland only to encounter a horde of Spicy Boys. It added a layer of comedic relief that was perfectly in line with the petition's spirit. This kind of organic community-driven engagement is what makes the internet legend so captivating. It wasn't driven by a marketing budget or a corporate agenda. It was driven by the sheer, unadulterated joy of collective silliness. Of course, as much as we might wish for a populated world by the Spicy Boys, the scientific community tends to operate on a slightly different principle than the internet, meaning the naming of species known as the nomenclatures is a highly regulated and formalized process. It's governed by the international codes, the most relevant here being the International Commission on Zoological Nomenclature, or ICZN. The ICZN has strict rules designed to ensure stability and universality in scientific names. Names are typically Latinized, followed a system based on rigorous taxonomic classification. Changing a name isn't as simple as collecting 75,000 signatures on a website. It usually involves extensive scientific review, detailed descriptions, and often compelling new biological evidence. So, while the Spicy Boys petition was a glorious demonstration of internet power, it was never going to result in an official taxonomic change. Scientists aren't going to scrap decades of established biological classification because a viral meme, no matter how hilarious it was. The purpose of scientific names is precision and consistency, allowing researchers worldwide to unambiguously refer to a specific organism. Spicy Boys, while evocative, lacks the scientific rigor. However, the petition's creators and its supporters were fully aware of this. The human lay precisely in the audacity of asking for such a change, knowing full well it was impossible. It was satire, pure and simple, but satire executed with such conviction and widespread appeal that it did blur the lines between genuine advocacy and pure performance art. The campaign highlighted a fascinating aspect of internet culture, the ability to engage with serious concepts like identity and scientific naming through the lens of humor and absurdity. It allowed people to collectively poke fun at the perceived rigged identities, even if only for a moment. And in doing so, it created a shared experience that bonded thousands of strangers together. So, what became of puppergsmall and the Spicy Boy campaign? Well, like many internet phenomenon, its moment in the spotlight, eventually it faded. The petition remains archived on change.org, a digital monument to a simpler, sillier time. Fire ants are still scientifically Solenopus invicta and other related species known as fire ants. Their stings are still painful, and they are still very much not feeling dysphoric about their name, at least as far as entomologists go. But the legacy of Spicy Boys endures. It's a touchstone for a particular era of internet humor. It reminds us of the power of a good joke, perfectly timed and broadly appealing. It's a story we tell when we want to illustrate the joyful and arctic spirit of the early to mid 2010s internet. The Spicy Boys campaign also serves as a charming counterpoint to other more serious internet naming campaigns. Take for example the famous Bodie McBoatface incident in 2016. The United Kingdom's Natural Environment Research Council, NERC, ran an online poll to name its new popular research ship. What seemed like a democratic gesture quickly spiraled into an internet chaos as the public overwhelmingly voted for Bodie McBoatface. Despite the scientific community's discomfort, NERC eventually compromised, naming the ship RRS Sir David Attenborough, but giving one of its remotely operated submersibles the name Bodie McBoatface. This shows that sometimes the internet can leave its mark even if it's on a smaller submersible scale. In contrast, Spicy Boys never had a chance of official recognition, and that was a part of its charm. It was a purely meme-driven phenomenon, a testament to the internet's capacity for collective good-natured mischief. It wasn't about actually changing the world, but about having a laugh together, about connecting over something so inherently silly that it became profound. So, I guess the next time you encounter a fire ant mound, or perhaps feel that telltale sting, take a moment to remember the dream. The dream of a world where those tiny aggressive insects were not fire ants, but they were spicy boys. A world made slightly more ridiculous, slightly more joyful by the collective humor of the internet. That is all for this episode. I am your host, John, and remember, sometimes the weirdest ideas are the ones that truly connect us. Join us next time as we explore more of the weird and unexplained with John. Keep it spicy, my friends.